We're delighted to have you here today to celebrate our Uber volunteer and environmentalist. What I'd like to do right now is thank very much the Department of Community and Library Services for the city, who have worked with us diligently to make this event happen. So thanks very much to Ashley Wysocki and her tribe. Ashley's back here in the back. And what I'd like to tell you is that we have 2 books out here on the table as you came in. One of them is for messages for the family, they will take that book home. The other one is for us to keep here at Shipley. So very many people helped this happen, what you see today. Since the early 2000s, we have been putting together what is now Shipley Nature Center. And the people that put together did everything from ripping the passion vine out of the trees to putting together the plants and building the trails and building all the programs that we have now. Has all happened in the 20 or so years here, and we want to commemorate that and honor all of the volunteers. So we ask you to write in the book, and if you don't get it done today, you can send it to us or come in at another time. We will keep that book at Shipley. We would like you to write what you did and when you did it, the years in which you contributed, because we want to have everybody who put so much into this, from ripping a passion vine down to creating a whole little garden area to building a program or overseeing the many Eagle Scout projects that are in here. So please do that. That we want to make sure we get that and keep it here. I don't think there are any other questions that, unless you have one right now, before we start the program. So with that, I'm happy to introduce Chris Slama, who's a former Director of Community and Library Services. Chris?
Speaking of volunteers, it is National Volunteer Appreciation Week, so I gotta just acknowledge Kay's efforts and all of yours for the years that you've put in your heart and soul to make this place at Shipley what it is now. So thank you for that. As a resident of Huntington Beach for 43 years now and having worked for the city for 32 of those, I just have to say how genuinely honored I was to be invited to speak at this just momentous occasion to help recognize Shirley Dettloff. I'd also be remiss not to mention that I've had the great pleasure of working with and getting to know her husband, Bob Dettloff. Among many things, Bob has been an incredible advocate for older adults and enhancing their quality of life in Huntington Beach. He and Shirley have been an inspiration to me, not only as a public servant, but as a father and as a husband. So thank you, Bob. Before I started working for the city or really knew who Shirley was, I enjoyed the benefits of her amazing efforts at the Bolsa Chica wetlands, here at the Huntington Central Park, the Central Library across the street, and the policy on human dignity. And of course, here at Shipley Nature Center. As I'm sure most of you know, this amazing sanctuary is named after former Huntington Beach Mayor Donald Shipley. Dr. Shipley's vision started in the 1960s to have a place in Huntington Beach that reflected what California looked like 100 years ago. Thanks to his efforts, the Shipley Nature Center later opened in 1974. Over the years, however, the Nature Center became overrun with invasive plants that crowded native species, which threatened local native wildlife. Dead Monterey pines and giant reeds presented risk of fires and other challenges. As resources for proper landscape maintenance and upkeep became scarce, the city considered closing the Shipley Nature Center in around 2002. This cherished resource for local school children, community clubs, residents looking for serene escape, was in danger of shutting down. But then, former Mayor Shirley Dettloff stepped up, as she always did. Shirley was instrumental in summoning the help of other passionate citizens interested in preserving the Nature Center, and some of those are still here today in this crowd, This became what later became the Friends of Shipley Nature Center, a nonprofit organization formed to manage the Nature Center as an ecological sanctuary for California native plants and wildlife, and to provide environmental education in an urban setting in partnership with the city of Huntington Beach and the local community and with the wider world. Shirley served as an integral conduit between the volunteers and city management to establish a memorandum of understanding with the city, which to this day allows the nonprofit to manage the 18 acres that is the Shipley Nature Center. The accomplishment ultimately led to facilitating donations and efforts that continue to grace the unique Shipley Nature Center. Shirley was essential in creating this interpretive center, which draws thousands of elementary school students and visitors to our Central Park. Today, we recognize a connection between two mayors decades apart. Mayor Donald Shipley, who established the conservation of the space in the 1960s, and Mayor Shirley Dettloff, who later led volunteers to preserve it for generations to come. So thank you, Shirley, for that. And speaking of former mayors who've had great impacts on the city of Huntington Beach, it's my honor now to invite to the podium former mayor, the 57th mayor of Huntington Beach, Vic Leipzig.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you, Kay, and the rest of the Shipley volunteers for this event. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be able to speak about my longtime friend, Shirley Dettloff. My speech is premised on the idea that virtually everyone here knew Shirley Dettloff personally and understood what a charming as well as skilled human being she was. I'm also assuming that virtually everyone here had at one time or another volunteered for the Shipley Nature Center. And there would be no surprise to me that those two were coincident realities, because Shirley was herself not just a volunteer who did a tremendous amount of work for all of us on her own, but was a tremendous recruiter of volunteers. And that may be her most important skill in the long run to the work that she accomplished. I've been asked to summarize some of the things that Shirley Dettloff did for the environment of Huntington Beach outside of the Shipley Nature Center. And so I'll just tell the story from my own perspective. I first got to know Shirley Dettloff back in the mid-1980s when I joined the board of directors of the Amigos de Bolsa Chica and found Shirley Dettloff as the original executive director of the Amigos de Bolsa Chica. She had recently been hired by that new fledgling organization because at that time the Amigos were locked in a life or death struggle with the entrenched powers that be in order to protect the Bolsa Chica wetlands, and they hired her because of her outstanding political skills. She knew the political ropes of the state of California and was very skilled at using them. She later continued her service on the board of directors of the Amigos de Bolsa Chica until just last year, the longest serving member of that board of directors in its history. And during that time, I got to know Shirley in a couple of other contexts as well. For example, by the late 1980s, she and I both served together on the Huntington Beach Planning Commission. And one day, a Saturday morning in January of 1990, I got a call from Shirley saying that there had been a major oil spill off the coast of Huntington Beach. A ship called the American Trader was losing oil, hundreds of thousands of gallons. It was washing ashore on our beaches and ultimately destroyed the lives of thousands of birds. Shirley and I immediately raced down to the pier, and the two of us ultimately became the coordinators for the volunteer response program that, we were not allowed to clean the beaches, but we were allowed to gather bird life that was injured by the oil spill and bring it to the fledgling rehab center that later became the Wetlands and Wildlife Care Center of Huntington Beach, one of the most important wildlife response locations in Southern California. Another contribution, indirectly, of Shirley Dettloff. Shirley then, in her role as now president of the Amigos de Bolsa Chica, then played what to me is her most obvious role in benefiting the citizens of Huntington Beach, which was her negotiations of the ultimate resolution of the conflict between the Amigos de Bolsa Chica and the landowner at Bolsa Chica, which resulted in the public acquisition of hundreds of acres and a threefold expansion of the Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve, and led to the restoration of the Bolsa Chica wetlands as we know it today. In part because of that tremendous success, she was later appointed to serve as a member of the California Coastal Commission, where she served for the 1990s, and was responsible in her capacity as a member of the California Coastal Commission in another tremendous victory for us, which was yet another major land acquisition at Bolsa Chica, when the landowner was required by the Coastal Commission under Shirley's leadership to dedicate the 100 or so acres of the lower bench of the Bolsa Chica Mesa. As you drive along Warner Avenue today and you look out at the Warner Pond immediately adjacent to the roadway, envision in your own mind, because I'm sure that you've all done this many times, that wide, flat, open expanse beyond the pond. That was Shirley's contribution to the protection of habitat at Bolsa Chica, and that remains as a major open space area for raptors and other wildlife. Shirley's role with the Coastal Commission is probably her highest ranking role in the state of California. But then, of course, as you all know, she went on to run for city council of Huntington Beach and served as the mayor of this city. And as you have heard, she continued her service on the board of directors of the Amigos, though until, as I mentioned, just last year. Always dedicated, and in those years, she also spent time with the Shipley Nature Center, and you've heard from Chris about her many contributions there. So I'll thank you very much for listening to that quick summary of all of her contributions. Those of you who didn't get to know Shirley personally, I would insist that you have been touched by her even if you never knew her personally. She has touched the lives of every resident of Huntington Beach, and in fact everyone in Southern California, because of the tremendous contributions that she has made to the preserving the environment for us. And then I'm hoping that subsequent speakers will speak about some of the other major contributions that Shirley has made to our community, such as her work with the hospital, the Boys and Girls Clubs, and the other many involvements that she had to benefit the people of our area. With that, I'll turn the microphone over now to a former council member, Natalie Mosier.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly a privilege to be here today, standing in this extraordinary space, surrounded by nature, community, and so many familiar faces, to celebrate the dedication of the Shirley Dettloff Interpretive Center. Before I begin, I want to express my deep gratitude to everyone who made this moment possible, to the Community and Library Services, the City of Huntington Beach, and especially to Kay Goddard and the Friends of Shipley Nature Center, the Huntington Beach Tree Society, the many dedicated volunteers, community advocates, and the countless nonprofit organizations whose tireless efforts have preserved and nurtured this sanctuary and other beloved public spaces throughout our city. To my friend and Shirley's husband, Bob, to her family who join us today, and to all of you here honoring her memory, thank you for being here to share in this tribute. This is a very meaningful occasion, yet even as we dedicate this building in her name, let's be honest, and you've already heard about so many of the things that she's done, it is not enough. Most mayors are honored with parks or plaques. Shirley Dettloff was not most mayors. She was a force of nature herself, an educator, an environmentalist, a volunteer, and above all, a courageous leader whose legacy stretches far beyond any single building. I first knew Shirley as a mentor and eventually as a very dear friend. And like many of you, I learned from her not just by her words, but by her actions. Shirley taught us that true leadership isn't about speeches or photo ops. It isn't about short-term gains or shallow victories. It is about persistence, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to do what is right, even when it's not easy, even when it's not popular. When these 18 precious acres were threatened, Shirley didn't wait for someone else to act. She organized. Together with other advocates, she galvanized the community. She built bridges between City Hall and the passionate volunteers who have nurtured this space ever since. Shirley showed us that leadership means rising above petty politics, standing firmly for community over convenience, facts over fiction, and dignity over division. Shirley's impact extended far beyond this place. She defended our open spaces, worked in the hospitals, worked with the Boys and Girls Club, protected public institutions, dedicated to knowledge and learning, stood up for our unhoused neighbors with compassion and urgency, and advocated fiercely for inclusivity and human dignity. She knew that the strength of a community lies in how it treats its spaces, its institutions, and its people. Today, as we dedicate this building, let us hope that in the future, there will be an even more permanent honor, one more than just a sign above a door, one that fully captures Shirley's immense contributions, that tells her story clearly, proudly, and lastingly, just as she built lasting change in our community. We find ourselves in challenging times, when leadership often appears diminished to noise, spectacle, political stunts, and division. Shirley never had patience for those who placed personal politics above the public good. She always had something meaningful to say and led fiercely as a true diplomat. She listened, reached across the aisle, and she never gave up. It wasn't about her, it was always about community. She didn't seek headlines, yet she commanded respect. And so, as we honor Shirley today, on the one-year anniversary of her passing, I'd like to invite us all to pause for a moment of silence, to reflect on her life, her legacy, and the strength she shared so generously with this community. The most important tribute we can offer is a commitment to continue her work, to protect what she valued, and to embody her spirit in our actions every day. We miss her deeply. I miss her voice in my ear and in our community. Her absence is still felt in our hearts, yet so is her strength. To Shirley's family, especially Bob, please know how profoundly she is loved and respected, and how deeply we feel her absence. Yet, in places like Shipley, in the friendships she nurtured, and in the countless lives she influenced, Shirley's presence endures. Shirley Dettloff was indeed a builder, not just of policy and programs, but of people, partnerships, and true progress. And like the native oaks and sycamores that surround us, Shirley's roots run deep. May they continue to flourish. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming to this very special occasion. I was lucky enough to know Shirley, had a few meetings with her. We agreed on some things, probably disagreed on much more, but we always got along, I felt. And I respected the difference of opinions. I liked it. I liked exchange. I liked difference of voices. And this is one area that we agreed profoundly with. I love this center. My kids, I just live a few blocks down the way, across the street, and my kids and I spent a lot of times in this center. I think it was a little before it became Shipley's, but before 2002. but it was still the nature center that I know I grew up in one in Long Beach, and I had a deep loving for running around an area like this, the nature center. So this place is special to me, and I appreciate the work that's been done here and led by Shirley. And with that, I'm very happy to make the dedication to the Interpretive Center in her name. So I appreciate that. And in that, I have a certificate of recognition. Kate, I'll give it to you, or to the two of you.
Thank you, thank you.
John, thank you very much for everything you guys do and what you guys give back to the city. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Right on. And with that, I'd like to call Zachariah from Tony Strickland's state senator. It's Tony Strickland. He's got a certificate, I believe, for you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Hello, everyone. My name is Zachariah Hargy. I'm here on behalf of State Senator Tony Strickland, the former mayor of Huntington Beach, and also now the proud representative in the California State Senate for the city of Huntington Beach. What an honor it is to be here and present the certificate of recognition just for the legacy of Ms. Dettloff. And as the former mayor was saying, the many former mayors that were speaking, the former mayor was saying, even though some of us may not have been able to be super close friends with her or even know her really well, like some of us, anything that she did here really just touches us. And if we can agree on one thing, politics aside and everything else aside, this is just such a beautiful center. And that is just one thing that we can celebrate. So on his behalf, I have the pleasure of presenting this recognition. So if I can come up and we can get a great picture, that would be great.
Honorable Mayor, distinguished guests, and members of the Dettloff family, on behalf of the Friends of Shipley Nature Center, thank you for coming and dedicating our Interpretive Center to a marvelous woman, Shirley Dettloff. After Shirley left the City Council, she served on the Friends of Shipley Nature Center board until 2019. I would like to recognize now those who are Shirley's successors, the current board members, and actually most of them are actually right behind here. Kay Goddard, Denise, Christine, Melanie, Jackie, and there might be one or two others somewhere around here. Especially Kay, who is my predecessor from the previous 12 years, and Denise is our last original board member who was actually at the very first meeting Shirley put together for all the that started the Friends of Shipley Nature Center. I'd also like to recognize the previous board members, any previous board members that are here. If you could stand or raise your hand. We've got Debbie and a few others. And then, most importantly, anybody who ever volunteered here for no matter what amount of time or worked here, if they could please stand and be recognized. And there's quite a number of you, I know that. Including all those who pulled passion blind. All who stood have carried on the legacy that Shirley left us, which is to have a nature center for environmental education and recreational enjoyment. This was Donald Shipley's vision when he first proposed a nature center for Central Park nearly 6 decades ago, and Shirley took it upon herself to continue this vision 23 years ago. Without her, this nature center would not be here today. I ask you to help us to continue Shirley's legacy and Dr. Shipley's vision by volunteering, becoming a member of the Friends of Shipley Nature Center, or making financial contributions to fund our programs, staff, and maintenance and upkeep. We also want to create an educational area for all the children, including those with special needs. And someday, we would like to replace this 50-year-old building with a modern state-of-the-art facility, complete with educational areas, interactive exhibits, meeting rooms, and a small theater. However, it will still be called the Shirley Dettloff Interpretive Center. Last of all, you are all invited to celebrate the 50th anniversary of when Shipley Nature Center opened to the public back in 1975. It is going to be on Friday afternoon, May 16th from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. We will have information booths, education stations, and demonstrations, docent tours, and artisans selling their craft, among many other things. Please come and help us celebrate the last 50 years and to look forward to the next 50 years and beyond of continuing Shirley's legacy. Thank you all for coming today.